Well, good afternoon. I'm Bill Anderson. I'm coming live from the Costa del Sol. I have to say, a very pleasant Costa del Sol temperature today, about 25 degrees, a little bit breezy, but it's not too bad at all. It isn't the kind of real heat wave that we've been having over the last few weeks. I am delighted to welcome back Marcel Salazar. Marcel, how are you?
I'm very, very well. Thank you very, very much for having me back on. I'm excited to be back as well. I'm enjoying the weather also.
Yeah, and in case you don't know who Marcel is a physical therapist, and we kind of talk health things with Marcel. And I liked your title for today, Marcel. Is technology breaking your back?
Correct.
Oh,
Exactly. Is technology breaking your back? And I'm seeing an increasing number of people where the answer is yes. And I can
really?
see Dave, the producer, yes, also. So, yeah, absolutely.
But oh, okay, we've got a lot to talk about here, Marcel. But you know,
Yeah.
I think for many of us, maybe not you, but for many of us, our lives have been kind of turned around in many ways by technology, haven't they? Um,
Absolutely. I mean, it's made a huge difference to the way we work, how we work, and how quickly we can get work done.
right. Well, yes, it does, and you know, I do a lot of work from home. So,
Right.
you know, that makes life a lot easier in some ways, but
Yep.
it also means that I'm spending more time at home in front of some kind of technology, whether it be a laptop or a phone or a tablet or whatever. Yeah.
Exactly that. Exactly that. And this is precisely why I wanted to talk about this topic because we're seeing this massive shift towards people working from home now or working remotely and using devices that connect us to the internet, which of course is a fantastic thing, but it comes with its own problems, especially with this transition. And there's always problems during a transitionary phase. But once we learn how to use it appropriately, you'll be fine. But
Yeah.
what I'm seeing is where this transitionary phase to using this type of technology, it's presenting problems for people who need to come and see somebody like me to try and deal with those things. So I'm going to talk through what those problems are
Sure.
and then how I can help.
But Marcel, I don't know. I kind of sense that there's an additional issue here. Now, if you're working in an office with health and safety regulations and all the things that go along with that, you know, you should have the equipment that you're using in the office, albeit that it's IT,
Mhm.
would go along with I don't know, a proper chair, maybe something to raise if it's a laptop you're working on, or even a desktop to raise the screen to the right height, and you know,
Don't ruin it. Those are some of my key tips.
oh right, oh, okay, but what crosses my mind is that when people work from home, you know, they get the dining room chair,
I
which
tell you what the worst one is. I will tell you. We can do it now, or we can do it in a bit. But I can
no,
tell you what the very worst place to work from is:
go on, tell me.
the bed or your couch.
Right, okay.
Terrible, absolutely terrible. And I'm hoping people watching this or listening to this are like, ah, that's where I work from.
Really.
I've got to tell you, lads, we just had 50,000 prostitutes just turn off. Now you've just said that as well.
Now that's a different kind of work. Now that can present its own injuries without a shadow of a doubt. But we're probably going to have to cover that in another one.
Just had an email from Sandra's knocking shop in Beijing saying we've just had an evacuation here.
It's good to know the radio show's going out far and wide. That's good. All right. All right.
Okay,
Oh my goodness.
so so it's okay. We are just let's get back focused here. We are talking about information technology, so
Yes.
computers, laptops, phones,
Yes.
tablets, all this kind of stuff, and working from bed with one of these things is not great, or on the sofa.
No, exactly. So to draw back to what you said before, surprisingly, even office environments are not always set up correctly for the people who work in them.
Right,
So
okay.
this is something that I've been actually talking about for quite some time, way before even moving to the UK, to Spain from the UK. I remember working within a very large office space, and we tried to approach the conversation of desk ergonomics and so on and so forth. And it was still, this was probably about 7 years ago, it was still not very well adopted unless individuals were particularly aggressive about getting that setup correct. So if you are working in an office and your desk ergonomics are not correct, you're lining yourself up for problems. So we're not even talking about home technology yet. We're talking about people who are still working in the office. So if your desk setup, or what's called ergonomics, are not correct, then you're basically, it's just a matter of time before you create probably an issue with your wrist, your neck, your upper back, those types of things. And all of them can be avoided. All of them can be avoided.
Right.
But it's just a case of setting up your desk correctly. And I can go through the things that you can look at, particularly for the desk ergonomics,
Right.
which can then, of course, apply if a person is then working at home.
Yeah. So how about, Marcel, we talk about some of the kind of problems that these things create, and then look at what the solutions to these are. How would that be?
So how do they present? Well, what am I seeing from people? And it's amazing because very often my patients will come in with something that indicates towards a neck upper trap, which is the soft spongy part beneath your neck on the left or right side above your shoulder. And they'll present with quite severe pain in there, and or a lot of neck pain, and or a lot of headaches or pain at the rear of the skull. All of these things are related to posture, but not often connected with what this is what the patient feels, is that they don't connect that it's with their work-based activities.
Right.
So they might say, oh, I play a sport and I've now got this problem, or I'm predominantly right-handed and now I get a problem in my right side. And then eventually, if I ask the right kind of questions, which often I'm now doing much, much faster because it's becoming a bigger problem, is where do you work from? Do you work at home? Do you work at a desk? What's the situation? And then they're like, well, yeah, I do work from home, and so on and so forth. And that's when. So the injuries or the problems that I'm seeing is neck pain, headaches, chronic pain, strain behind the eyes, wrist problems, shoulder problems, and forearm issues as well, sometimes originating to the elbow as well. So all those types of upper body aches and pains without the event of an accident,
right,
could be related to. So if you're suffering from those types of things and you're feeling that in your body, it's very worth considering whether that has anything to do with how you're working.
Yeah, and if a lot of people are working from home, it's probably because they're working in some kind of IT environment. Whether they're managing a real estate from home, they're sitting there. And also the chair that we use. I mean, you're saying, don't do it from bed, don't do it from the sofa. But, how many of us have, proper office chairs, properly designed chairs, to even sit for hours at? Right.
Because what that means is that you're in an upright position, you are supporting your back, you're maintaining as good a posture as you can. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more later. But most importantly, the angles of your arms, and if you're on our video, you can see what I'm doing, but the angle at your elbow, for example, should be 90 degrees. So everyone can visualize 90 degrees if you are listening. That means that with your forearms on the desk, your elbow should be at 90 degrees of flexion or bend.
Right.
And that means that your chair is at the right height relative to your desk. But this is where we can have a problem from home, because if we are working from our dining room table, it might be higher than your average desk. If you are shorter in stature, then you might need a higher chair, etc. So you've got to find the dynamic that works for you. And the problem with office spaces is that they're made for the general population, not individuals. and then you have to bespoke it for you. And that's very, very important for prevention. Very important.
Right. Okay. So you've described kind of generally the kind of problems that if things are not set up correctly, Marcel, the kind of areas that people might well be experiencing problems. Whether it be, as you say, from the head, the neck, the shoulders, the arms. Do these things just go away if they change their work setup?
So that's an excellent question. If they have not had this problem for a long time, and it's not what's called a chronic problem. So chronic pain is anything more than, should we say, 3 months.
Right.
If you've had a niggle that's got worse and then really consistent for a period of around 90 days, then you've got chronic pain. And the problem with chronic pain is that it likes to stick around. So even if you make those adjustments, it might stick around.
Right.
But if you're new to it and you're just now experiencing, and let's say, for example, you are now working from home, you've got your setup, and I'll give you an example of a patient most recently. The gentleman in particular works with 2 screens. So that's another topic of conversation. And the interesting thing about the setup that he had was that his preference was to use a laptop over a desktop. Now, everyone knows hopefully what the difference is between a desktop and a laptop. Yeah, so a laptop is obviously a foldable device that you've got your keyboard beneath your screen, right? And a desktop is a screen that you have directly in front of you. Now, laptops are great for being mobile devices, but they're not great for the position of your head and the position of your hands.
Right.
Because the screen and the keyboard are too close together. So what you need to do is you're going to have to elevate the screen, but then you can't use the keyboard, because otherwise, if you're on camera, you'll see your hands are up here typing away, and that's not going to work. So you're going to have to get a separate keyboard if your primary device is a laptop.
Yeah.
Because what you're going to want to do is put 2 stacks of paper, packed reams of paper on top of each other, and then put the laptop on top of that. That's going to probably be a much better setup.
Well, actually, that is pretty much exactly what I what I have here. I have a kind of stand thing that my laptop goes onto.
That's it.
And it raises the screen to about eye level. So I'm actually...
Bill, I can see that you've got your screen elevated because of the angle at which I can see you.
Yeah.
Can you see the angle at which you can see me?
Yes, you're looking down.
You're being lower down? Because I don't have this set up on a ream, because
And
I don't use my laptop.
I have a separate keyboard, exactly as you've said. Because, I mean, it would be a really unnatural position. The screen position is great because I'm looking straight into it, but it would be very unnatural to try to type with that. Correct. So I use a separate keyboard for doing that.
Exactly. So then if you've got your screen elevated, the height that you're looking for it to be is that the very top of the screen, that is the edge of the screen, should be roughly in line with your eyes or eyebrows. So your eyes are not looking above, but actually looking slightly down, angled through your eyeballs, but not through your head and skull.
Right, okay.
Because with a laptop setup, as I've got it, my head is ever so slightly, and if you're on camera, my head is ever so slightly tilted forwards, like so. Now that position for a sustained period of time creates nothing but problems for your neck and shoulders.
Right.
So if your screen height is not up here, and I'm lifting up my laptop, this is a far more appropriate position for my laptop, for example, to be.
Right.
Because I'm at my laptop for less than 10 minutes making notes, and then I'm up and about, moving about, this is okay. But I could improve this setup if I knew I was going to be working from my desk for more than 15 minutes.
Yeah, but this is the whole thing, Marcel, that, you're not really an IT worker, or you're not your work is very physical, and then you have to intersperse that with some time in front of a laptop, as you say, for making notes or answering messages and things like that. So you're not actually spending 6 or 7 hours in that position. No. No,
absolutely not. Anyone that's spending more than an hour in front of a screen seriously has to evaluate their workspace environment.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just lining yourself up for problems. And the screen I reference is not just a laptop. I'm talking about a desktop. I'm talking about a mobile phone. I'm talking about a tablet. Any form of screen technology where you are literally engaging with it and potentially tapping on it, you have to think about what are the long-term effects that's going to have on your posture and so on. Otherwise, your requirement of somebody like me is going to be much, much higher, much more likely.
But that's good for business, isn't it?
It's good for my business, yeah. But the part of my business is also called prevention. And I like to encourage people to prevent. So obviously, those listeners, if you want to come and visit me, keep doing the wrong thing. That would be great. But I'm very happy to encourage you to try and do the right thing to help protect your posture and your spine and so on.
So, Marcel, what is actually happening here? You know, I think you've described very well the sort of ergonomics argument that, you know, when people are sitting for prolonged periods of time in essentially an unnatural position, you know, what is actually happening at a muscular skeletal level that is causing these problems?
Good question. Absolutely. Okay, so if we to visualize this is probably easier, particularly because we're on radio. When you're in a standing position, everything is in alignment from the top down. So your head is above your neck, and your neck is above your shoulders, and then your shoulders above your lower back. And your body is designed to be in this upright position. That's where it's best. That's where it's evolved to be strong, in this upright position, right? Now let's change the angles that we've got when we're sitting at a desk. So we'll start at the top. If the top of the head is not directly above the neck, then what happens is that we're tilting the head forward. So again, if we're on video, we're tilting the head forward, and the weight of your head is immense. It's a very heavy item. Some people's are heavier than others because they carry more brains. Women in particular, very smart people, so they have very heavy heads. But obviously what that does is that takes a bit of strain through the muscles at the back of your neck. So what that means is your muscles at the back of your neck are constantly working to hold your head from literally tipping forward. So it's a very tricky one to maintain if you are looking down and forward all the time. Whereas if you then raise your screen and your line of sight is above and ahead of you and you're looking straight ahead, your head is therefore directly above your neck, and then you're in a much more stable position. If you have your head protracted forward in this shortened position, then you're also going to get pain across your upper traps, which is your shoulders, and that's where you're going to get really acute, again, muscle contraction. So that's where your muscles are constantly working without any form of relief. And we just can't do that. If you're to squeeze a muscle in one part of your body, your legs, your arms, your chest, for as long as you can, for 6 hours, you're probably going to end up with a problem, with an injury, a cramp, damage to that muscle, but you're doing it without thinking about it.
Right.
Because you don't feel the pain initially or urgently.
Yeah.
So that's the problem. The muscles are consistently contracted, and over a period of time, that creates a problem, pain.
Yeah. And you know, the way you would treat this is by, is it
Luckily,
like deep tissue massage?
A postural issue through muscular tension is usually very quick and easy, because it's a case of relaxing, resetting the muscles and potentially some of the facets within the spine itself, which become out of position, and that can create nerve pinch or nerve pain. And that type of treatment is straightforward. It can be a little uncomfortable, but it's highly effective, very, very effective. And that would work through the neck, the base of the skull, all the way through from the shoulders down to the mid-back. And again, if we're sitting forward with our head, within 15, 20 minutes, chances are our shoulders have collapsed forward as well. And we're probably sitting again on camera, rounded like so. And that obviously is going to affect the muscles between our shoulder blades. So if you're experiencing upper back pain from working at a desk for all day long, that's why. It's very, very hard to maintain good posture all day long.
Right.
There are ways you can help it, though, which we'll talk about.
Listen, Marcel, I've just got a message from a producer from Dave in France, and there are some email questions on this subject coming in.
How exciting.
So I don't have access to the emails. So, Dave, would you give us one just now? We'll perhaps deal with them over the next little while.
Yeah. We've got there's one from Tessa Knowles here who's down in she's in Bordeaux, but she says she's an estate agent and she spends a lot of her time in the car driving around to see different properties.
Yeah.
She was asking about the perfect position for your driving with the seat. Is it best to have the back of the seat forward or upright or lay down at an angle?
Yeah, good question. And that's for estate agents, which are very, very popular in this area as well, particularly using mobile devices. They're on their phones all the time. And there's a couple of things I would say about that. But driving position, generally speaking, you're going to want to try and have your backrest upright. It shouldn't be bolt upright. It's not like you're sitting in a plane, because that's very tiresome for your pelvis and hips. So you're going to want a slight angle. If you're on camera again, you're probably going to want about a 15-degree angle going backwards, because that's much more comfortable, bearing in mind you've got padding, and also most modern cars have got good lumbar or better lumbar supports as well. So the position is a semi-extended back, but not a huge amount. Definitely not bolt upright, but angled back about 15 degrees should be comfortable for you. The other thing that's relevant is the distance between your feet and the pedals. So what you don't want to be doing is reaching for the pedals, as in you're using your tiptoe to put your clutch down, for example. That's too far away. Your seat needs to get closer. And obviously, if when the clutch lifts, your knee is up by the steering wheel, you're too close. So again, measuring that distance is very, very important, because there shouldn't be too much knee movement. Again, this varies massively based on the height of the individual. So you need to find the right height as well as forward and backward position of your car to ensure that you can extend your leg for the clutch or the brake safely, but mostly in the ankle without a lot of knee movement. There can be some, but not a lot of knee movement. So making sure that setup is correct. And then, of course, seeing clearly straight ahead over the steering wheel is important. Where sometimes if you're very short, just seeing over the rim of the steering wheel.
I've got to say though, how many of us have actually seen, not so much men, but how many times have you seen ladies, when they get in a car, they're literally embedded into the steering wheel?
Yep. And my wife is not excluded from that. She will also do that and be driving like this. She's probably going to hit me for this, but it's true.
Their elbows are behind them. That's what gets me. They've got the steering wheel under the chin and their elbows are behind them like that. I'm thinking, how on earth are you driving like that?
Now, might be practical. It could also be because of the length of their legs. What we can't see is their legs. They may have very short legs, and that's resulting in them needing to be right up to there. But I doubt it. So
you're going to be a dwarf, mate. You've got to be a dwarf if they're doing that. They might be stood up in the footwell for all we know. But I mean,
exactly. That's the problem. So totally relevant. But yeah, it's usually quite unnecessary to have the steering wheel into your chest, because you're just too close in that regard.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But
that answers the question for you.
We're quite fortunate now, though, that most modern cars, have got a lot of mobility at least in the driver's seat. So it's, as you're saying, it's the height, the position back and forward, the actual position of the back. So we've actually got a fair bit of adjustment, haven't we, in the driver's seat?
That's right. I just had a comment live from my wife saying she does have short legs. So that is the problem. In her defense, she's got on the messenger and she said, "I've got short legs." So
a trampoline in the car for the footwell. Put it in there and then she can bounce it while she's driving.
No, she's a very capable driver. Historically, she used to go really close, but now she's got a bit more comfortable with it.
You're saying all the right things now, lad, for a good
I've got to be well careful, obviously.
Exactly. If you keep saying the right things, you'll be happy. You're happy.
Correct.
Okay, Dave, how about we take a short break just now, and when we come back, you okay, Marcel, to pick up another couple of these questions?
100%. Absolutely. I've got more info to share.
Yes, good.
Expat Radio. To listen, you don't need to be an expat, and you don't even need a radio.
The best variety of music and conversation.
You're listening to Expat Radio, beaming out across France and around the world.
Welcome back. I'm Bill Anderson. We're coming live from the Costa del Sol here with my guest today, Marcel Salazar, physical therapist.
Hello.
And Marcel is also taking some questions via email. So we've got a kind of little debate system going here. We've got Dave in France with the emails. We've got Marcel here on the Costa del Sol. And Dave, let's take another question.
You're on a sun lounger in the Costa del Sol, lad.
I am on a sun lounger. I'm not wearing my thong today, though.
Steady.
Oh, I was so looking forward to that as a highlight of today's show.
Marcel, he's gone commando. That's what's worrying me. Anyway.
Well, that's why I'm not standing up. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to stand up today.
Oh, not coming on the camera. Flipping out. I've seen enough anacondas with Mr. Attenborough. I've seen anacondas left, right, and centre. Not another one.
Well, one a day is enough, right? All right.
That's what Sandra in Beijing has just emailed in.
Right, Dave.
Thomas Armstrong in Leeds has said his wife bought him a cushion to put his feet on under his desk while he was working on his computer. But he's actually retiring, and they're looking to move over down to Portugal in the next 12 months. But he's saying, is it relevant to have his feet on a cushion under his desk, or is it best to wear relevant footwear while you're working on a computer? And he's put at the bottom, is this a stupid question, or am I or not?
No, it's not a stupid question. Sorry, what was his name?
Thomas,
it's not a stupid question. And actually, your wife's done you a bit of a favor there, because if your seat, let's say your seat is quite high off the ground, you do want your feet to be flat on the floor if possible. So if your desk setup, let's say, is a little higher and your seat is a little higher and your feet don't fully touch the floor, it's better to have your feet rested on a cushion, a pad, and there are specialist equipment that you can buy, but a cushion is perfectly good enough for you to rest your feet. So it really does work in your favor to support the underneath of your knees and so on if you continue to use it. So it's not a stupid question, and it's a good, useful gift as well. Most useful, again, if your desk setup is quite high. If your feet touch the floor easily with the right ergonomics of the desk and the chair, then you probably don't need that. But if you are quite high off the ground and you find that your feet don't fully touch the floor, then having that cushion is fantastic. Great for posture protection.
Very good.
Okay.
Right, now I've got this is a good one actually. It's Claire Ward. She's actually in Hamburg, and she said that she goes out walking most weekends, and on a Friday she was in excruciating pain with her back until she went out walking on the Saturday and put her rucksack on, which was quite heavy, full of considerable things out of her handbag, as well as sandwiches and other things that she's put on there. She said, but when I put the rucksack on, I realized that the balance actually helped the problem with my back, and I didn't have any back pain for the rest of the weekend.
Interesting. That would probably indicate that actually she needs to work on the muscles surrounding either her lower back or her abdominal muscles. Most likely her abdominal muscles, because those are the things that weaken fastest, particularly if we have a very sedentary job. And if you tweak your back and you don't have the appropriate support system in your abdominals, your obliques, and the muscles that parallel the spine, then it will continue to exist, or you make it worse. But if you load the back, sometimes that encourages the abdominals to work a little bit better. There's a tiny bit of compression which can work for you. Sometimes the compression works against you, but sometimes some compression will help to support the core of the body, creating more internal pressure, which then takes away pain. Doesn't mean that your problem is gone necessarily, but it's unless you're going to wear the backpack all the time, which might be tricky in bed and obviously going to the bathroom and stuff. But I mean, if you wanted to look into it, it's well worth finding out what your movement and your strength is like with and without the bag. Obviously, probably without the bag would be better. and then see if you can work towards alleviating that pain without the backpack. But that is interesting. That can happen, obviously, and it's generally related to creating internal pressure inside your abdominal cavity in order to protect your spine, make it stronger whilst you're wearing the bag. But it can always be
interesting. I bet there's so many people that come up with that kind of thing, and they don't realize that that's happening.
What, were they carrying a bag, or when they've got pain?
Yeah. Well, when you carry, I tell you what's interesting. What I've seen. Professional golfers have caddies. The caddies nowadays, a lot of them have a harness strap, don't they?
Yes.
And yet caddies back in the day, they only had one strap going over the shoulder.
That's right.
They must have suffered with major back problems.
Exactly, because you're it's like wheeling a luggage bag all day long. It's like carrying a wheelie bag or putting a rucksack on one shoulder, which again was terrible for kids and so on, especially with very heavy bags. Carrying it on one shoulder, there was a reason it had two straps. There's a reason why the army, who load up their Bergens, have two straps. It's because it equally distributes the weight through the shoulders. If you're putting it on one shoulder, you're lining yourself up for problems, particularly if your bag is heavy. If it's not heavy, it doesn't make a huge difference. But if you've got a rucksack full of stuff, absolutely, it's just a matter of time.
So good advice for women: if they've got a handbag, put it over both shoulders, Kills, because you know how heavy your handbags are normally.
That's right. You've got bricks in there, mobile phones, makeup, all sorts, weaponry. So, it's got to go across, or wear a backpack, even better, backpack handbag.
We're all nodding. The three of us are nodding, going, yes, we know exactly how much weight's in those handbags, especially when they say, can you hold it? I've just got to go to the loo. And
That's
your arm
right.
goes,
That's right. That's right. We know what we're talking about. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, Marcel.
Yes.
We're back to IT again.
Oh yes.
And what other experiences you want to relate to us, and what other advice do you want to give us about avoiding problems when we're spending a lot of time on IT?
Yeah, so we've already discussed the desk setup and how we want 90 degrees at the elbow, which means that if whatever the height your desk is, your chair needs to be relative to that. There are chair variables like kneeling chairs. Those chairs are good for strengthening your lower back. Now, hopefully, if you don't know what I mean, Google it. They're kneeling chairs. They have no back support, because you are effectively resting on your knees the entire time. Those are good chairs because they force your back muscles to work and maintain your torso upright. But one of the things that I would actively encourage for whether you're working at home, or working from a desk at work, is you need to be getting up regularly. You definitely need to be getting up off wherever you are, excuse me, on a regular basis, because the movement will help the flow of blood around your body, and particularly your back and shoulders.
Right.
So every 25 to 30 minutes, you should be moving away from your desk and coming back. Right.
So it is about taking regular breaks, even if it's just to go and fill up a glass with water, or here we can just step outside for 5 minutes and then come back. Yeah.
That's exactly right. Even just going to the toilet, walking to the toilet, not even using it, going to the kitchen if you're at work or if you're at home, anything like that will just. Now, I know sometimes when you're in the zone, a lot of people that I've told to do that have said, I can be in the zone and I've sat there for 2 hours and I haven't moved.
Sure.
So one of the things that you can use as a tool is if you have lucky enough to have a smartwatch, you can have reminders go off on your smartwatch. If you have a smartphone, you can have reminders go off every 25 minutes, just a little buzz to remind you, okay, I need to get up. And those things are super duper helpful. So it does make a big difference to get that mobility. And there are even some desk-based activities that you can do, which I'm going to go through and try my best to describe, in order to loosen the muscles of your neck, and your upper back and your lower back as well. But before I talk about those, the other form of technology that I wanted to talk about was your mobile phone. Right. And what I'm seeing a lot of people, particularly real estate agents, particularly young people as well, their postures are becoming massively impacted because we spend, if you imagine looking at a laptop with your head angled 20 degrees forward, when you're looking at a mobile phone, and if you're on video, you'll see what I mean. We're like this. We're almost at 90 degrees,
Right.
looking down at a screen in the palm of our hands. That, for a sustained period of time, is going to give you neck pain without a shadow of a doubt, whether you're young or old, middle-aged, whatever it is. So if you're the type of person that does a lot of work from your mobile, you absolutely need to think about how you're holding it. And the simplest solution, particularly if you are working from within a car, if you have a real estate business, I would highly recommend that you get a car holder that puts it into the vent, the air vent, and you can safely put it up there, because then that's line of sight. So your eyes are looking straight ahead. You can still interact with it. You can use voice dictation to send messages or to write emails or whatever it might be. And that will take away the action of your little hand movements, but it'll also, most importantly, allow you to be more upright when you're sitting in a car. Let's say you're working from home. All you need is a selfie stick with a tripod on it. Now, I've got actually that exact thing I can show you on camera here, where I have a camera on a selfie stick that functions as a tripod. So the tripod allows me to position the camera wherever I want, and it can be directly ahead of me. And I can use that then for video calling. I can use that then for phone calls with speakerphone. And it prevents me, worst of all, from having my phone here to here, which is on my ear to my shoulder, and lifting my shoulder up towards my ear.
Right, yeah.
You imagine holding that position with a small wedge of glass between there for anything more than 5 minutes, it's going to create problems for your neck and shoulders. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
So that type of thing is a nightmare. And for taking phone calls, I would absolutely recommend either plug-in earphones or earbuds.
Yeah, that's actually what we've started. Well, Vicky more than me probably, but she's got me into the earbuds. And you know, if I'm on the phone, she'll go, put your earbuds in. And actually, it's far more comfortable because I've got both hands free now.
Correct.
And if I want to make notes or whatever, I've got, you know, I've got my hands free to do that, and
right.
you can sit in a much more natural position.
Correct. You're in a much more upright position. Even when you're on the phone, we tend to do this head tilt to the side. That's a common thing, or we walk up more upright. But you still don't necessarily want that phone to your ear for more than 5 minutes anyway, for various other reasons.
Yes.
So if you have a plug-in earphones that you can stick into that, shove them in and have them in. If you're working from home, always make sure the earphones are on your desk and they're part of your desk setup, so you can then plug them in whenever you need. Or earbuds, which of course are Bluetooth. So if you've got them connected, you can just bosh them in, talk on the phone, listen to music, whatever it might be, but you're not leaning or cocking your head to the side, and in particular, not elevating your shoulder to your ear in order to hold the handset, whether it be a landline or a mobile. You don't want to be doing that because there's no necessity for that. There's no, you know, we have the things available in order to avoid doing exactly that and keeping your hands completely free.
Yes.
And your setup correct. That will help to prevent tension through your neck and shoulders.
But Marcel, you know, you've described a sort of selfie stick with a tripod for the mobile phone, and as you say, if it's going to be, I don't know, a video call, that's great. But is there really a position that is not potentially going to cause you problems with these kind of mobile devices and using them for long periods of time? Because you can't really stick the thing up, you know, level with your face.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you would ideally do. You'd ideally stick it up in front of your face, but then you're going to get arm fatigue for holding it up there for anything more than 5 minutes, which is exactly why if you are going to be using, if you know you're going to be using a mobile device for extended periods of time, you definitely should consider the type of screen that you're using for longer periods of time. So if you're out and about, maybe you need to consider a laptop over using your mobile if you're going to be doing more than 5 minutes worth of work on a
Right.
screen. If you're
Yeah.
going to be doing more than an hour's worth of work on a screen, you're going to have to be still. You can't be sitting, you can't be driving whilst doing that, obviously. So you're then going to need to think about, well, maybe I need to get a proper desk set up as well. So that's where we talk about getting the reams of paper, put the laptop on top, and you have a separate keyboard, and that's your appropriate desk setup. So it's a little bit of upgrading, perhaps, where, you know, if you've got a smartphone and that's all you use, you might want to consider getting an affordable or an effective or an appropriate laptop, which will allow you to move about freely, but also allow you to have a much larger screen real estate, is the terminology that they use, which will put a lot less stress on your eyes, but it'll also allow you to have much better posture, because exactly as you say, the chances of us looking directly down at a phone that we've got in our palm of our hands is far more likely than us holding it up here in front of our face, where we're in a much more appropriate position.
Yeah.
So it definitely thinking about using the technology that you have appropriately, depending on the time that you're using it. I think that's what you need to think about. If your time spent on your screen is more than 5 minutes, then your phone is probably not going to be appropriate. If it's more than 20 minutes, you're probably going to need to think about a laptop. And if it's more than that, then a proper desktop setup is going to make much better sense for protecting your posture and spine. But I realize real life is not always that easy. So you have to find what works for you and think about your posture in order to prevent the necessity of coming to see somebody like me after a couple of months of doing that work.
Yeah, and you know, there are even maybe halfway houses with some of these things, Marcel. You know, I do use a tablet quite a lot because, you know, I don't want to be stuck in the room with my laptop all the time.
Yeah.
But you know, I also have a little Bluetooth keyboard.
Yep.
That I can use with my, it's not attached, it's not one of these sort of flip up things, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, in theory, I can put my tablet, you know, upright, a little bit of a distance away, so I'm not looking straight down at it, and use the Bluetooth keyboard for whether it's emails or, you know, for doing notes and things. And it's maybe a bit of a halfway house.
Correct. It absolutely is. And that's the thing. That would be an upgrade from your phone. If you know you're going to use your phone for more than 5 minutes doing emails and stuff like that, it makes sense for you to get a tablet that you can easily position somewhere at an appropriate height, and you have a separate keyboard. And these Bluetooth keyboards are very easily accessible. They connect instantly with your device. And I'm a tech fiend, so I absolutely love all things tech related. And I often advise my clients, in fact, on what would be appropriate and how to use them as well.
Sure.
So because that's an enthusiasm of mine, I'm very happy to explain to my clients how best to use the tech that you have in your life, or maybe what would be the best thing for you to get if you wanted to push it up a little bit to protect your spine and posture and so on.
Right, okay. So, our time is running away, Marcel, as always.
I wanted to just describe the exercises then.
Please
before
do.
We go. Yeah.
Please do.
So if you are in a car, sitting at a desk, and ideally before you feel any tension, but if you start to feel a little bit of tension, there are some exercises that you can do to help start to ease off your neck. So let's say you're sitting at a desk or in your car. All you need to do is sit as upright as you comfortably can with your chest elevated. Turn and rotate your head to the left and to the right to start to warm up the muscles of your neck, keeping your neck in a nice straight line. Feel free to do it with me, boys, that's fine. And then rotating left and right, and you might start to feel it pull one side more than another. That's telling you where it might be a bit of a beginning of a problem. And then what you want to do is you want to tilt your head to one side. So let's say we're tilting to the left side where we're bringing our ear to our shoulder.
Right.
What we're not doing is we're not bringing our shoulder to our ear. We're not elevating the shoulder. We keep the shoulder down and we drop the ear to the shoulder. And you're going to feel a pull on the opposite side in your neck.
Sure.
And then to amplify that, we just place our hand, the hand that we're leaning towards, onto our head and just lightly pull, nothing heavy, just a light pull, for example, to the left with my left hand, so that I feel a little bit more of a stretch that way. And then of course we're going to want to go the other way. So I bring my right ear to my right shoulder and I pull it very gently, and I can feel a bit more of a stretch there. Then that's going to help to loosen up my neck. I can then do the same thing by tucking my chin into my chest and lightly pulling on the back of my head so that I feel a stretch at the back of my neck. Then I'm going to want to open out my chest and my upper back. So this one's really simple. All we're going to do is squeeze the shoulder blades back, pull them forwards, squeeze the shoulder blades back so the chest comes out, pull them forwards, rounding the upper back, and then pull them back. So how many times are we going to want to do this? Probably about 10 times in the shoulders. For the neck, we're going to want to hold it for 15 to 20 seconds per side.
Right.
And then for the lower back, what we want to do is pelvic tucks. So imagine in your mind that you're slumping in your seat, and then we're going to raise up and lift our chest as high as we can, arching our lower back, sticking our bottom out into the back of the seat. Then we're going to slump back down, and then we're going to raise our chest back up again, arching our lower back, and then lowering down. Again, 10 times. What does this do? It helps to loosen and warm up the muscles of the lower back, stopping them from being too stiff or being stuck in a slumped position for too long, and it's going to help to move it about. And then, of course, once we've done that, the best thing would be walk about. Get up, go for a short walk to the toilet, the kitchen, come back, and then go from there.
I did read a note from Dave saying that he had a back problem with his IT, but it was lifting his neighbour's old washing machine out.
Yes. Yeah, that'll do it. That'll do it.
I was doing I'm doing the nice gentlemanly thing. She's there at the tip. I've took some plastic bottles to go and put in the recycling thing. And there's this old dear. Some bloke had obviously put the washing machine in a trailer, but she'd driven it there, and then there was no one there to get it out for her. The two guys that worked at the tip are looking through the window, thinking, no way in a month of Sundays a week.
Yeah, we're not going to touch that. Yeah.
So I thought, I'm going to have to do it. So I went over, and I basically walked it over to the wall of the, what's her name? Years ago, I'd have been able to lift the whole thing, but I thought, with me dicky back anyway, I thought, right, don't even go there. Just get it to the edge of the wall and then get hold of the bottom and lift it in, which I did. And then it wasn't until I walked away and I'm thinking, oh, hello, I can feel that pulling now. And it wasn't. Then I got in the car, drove back, and when I got home, when I got out of the car, I thought, oh, and I moved my right leg out of the car to get out, and I felt it pull at the bottom of my back where I'd torn the muscles years ago, over 10 years ago, and I thought, oh no, don't tell me I've done that again.
Can I ask you a question, Dave? How long was the drive between the tip and getting home?
About 10 minutes.
Yeah. It was in that time that you had a window of opportunity to either calm your back down or for it to do what it did. Now, obviously, without necessarily knowing what to do, it's difficult to obviously tell you that, I'm not saying it was your fault, although it was partly your fault.
Well, sure. But stretch. Would I normally stretch after doing that?
So after doing something like that, what you've effectively done, and this is not a prescription of exercise for everybody with back pain because everyone's different, but what you can do in certain circumstances is you can tilt your pelvis to help relax the muscles of your lower back, because of course your back muscles have had to work suddenly much harder than they've worked probably in a very long time.
Yeah.
So your back muscles have gone, oh my God, what are we doing? And so if you tuck your pelvis forwards a bit and activate your abdominal muscles, particularly your lower back muscles, it can help to relax your lower back. But then what happens is that when you get in the car, you sit still and mostly in a flexed position. So your lower back is tucked. And what happens is, as I mentioned before, especially with exactly what we've been talking about your muscles getting tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter, that's what happened. Your muscles got tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter. And then you got out of the car. And by that point, they were like, yeah, we're just going to stay here and stay nice and tight.
Yeah. Well, it's even worse. Now I'm in the chair when I'm doing the show. I get up. I mean, I get up and walk around anyway when I'm doing the show now for years. But now, since I've done that, now I'm thinking, bloody hell, gotta get up and move, because as soon as I swing round to get up, then I can feel it again. And I'm like, as soon as if I'm walking around after so long, it's not too bad. But as soon as I sit down and then wait for another 10 minutes again, then I'm getting this pain going down into the top of my legs, and I'm thinking, there we go.
Yeah, I mean, it does sound like potentially your desk is not the best working place. In fact, actually, you might want to even consider having a kneeling chair which will put more work through your back muscles, but you're going to need to learn some stretches to help relax your muscles of your lower back so that you don't constantly fatigue it.
Well, we'll do that. We'll do that. We'll do that in shows coming up, can't we? If I get one of them chairs, and then you can tell me how to, and you can advise people, and Mr. Anderson can sit there laughing at me, blooming like Buddha on this kneeling chair.
He's not even on a chair. He's got his legs crossed and he's floating.
Yes.
He's like that. His head moves up and down. He's actually levitating. I love it.
He's floating on a carpet, bless him. Well, we can never go at that, can't we? We can make a show of that.
Yeah. Do we all need to get one? Do I need to get one as well?
Yeah, you get one as well.
Right.
It'll end up with me either being in a wheelchair, having a disabled spot in a car park place, which is the benefit that I might get out of it, or
I reckon it's worth the sacrifice, Dave. I reckon it's worth it. Let's just see what happens. We'll use you as a guinea pig.
But yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. There'll be so many people going, "Oh, go on, hurt him. We want to hurt him." We're going through the press. I'll take the smirk off his face, and I'm like,
yeah.
But yeah, it's always been it's been there for years that I've had this issue, and then I go and do that. But I'm quite, because I train and what have you anyway. I've got a weights belt there. I could have put that on but I had no idea that this daft bat was going. Oh, she's driving off. Happy as Larry, washing machine gone, and then I'm getting the car like Quasimodo. I'm getting a car afterwards. I'm thinking, gee.
She probably put the washing machine in the trailer, no problem. She just couldn't be bothered. She thought, I'll get that guy to do it.
It was as big as her, though. It's either that or some daft bugger at the other her house. She's on the floor on the driveway thinking, Jesus, I can't move. So she's injured 2 blokes and she's got away with nothing. She's got driving on quite happy. Job done.
Smart. Can't blame her.
Dave, I think our time is just about gone, hasn't it?
We've got 5 seconds and we're going to the news.
Okay, Marcel, thank you so much for joining us again, and we will maybe speak to you in another month or so.
Yes, we will. Another 4 weeks, and we'll do another one for sure. Absolutely.
Okay, Marcel, thank you. Dave, thank you from France. For those of you who've been listening in, have a great weekend, and we'll be back next week. Take care now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Cheers, boys.